All right, so Chris Sky, one of the most vocal anti-lockdown, anti-tyranny revolutionaries out there, a brother in arms if I ever saw one. I mean, this man, complete and utter respect for what he has done for our revolutionary movement. He did an interview with a Rebel News, and we're going to review that video right now in its entirety. I don't know, maybe Ezra Levent is going to try to dock this video for, copyright or anything. Well, that's not the intention. This is something that needs to be analyzed, discussed, because I've always had a little bit of skepticism when it comes to Rebel News. Now, just so you know, for people watching on YouTube, the reason why I am posting this video so late is because YouTube blocked me from making videos for 2 weeks because I said that Jeffrey Epstein was a pedophile. So whoever's running YouTube, I don't know, maybe they're pedophiles themselves. Maybe they were involved with Jeffrey Epstein and all this sort of stuff. And that needs to be investigated too, because he was involved with a lot of pedophiles. And it's now come out that, he may have been a Zionist agent as well, an Israeli Mossad agent sent to blackmail the rich and the powerful to always do Israel's bidding. And if they don't, then lurid photos and videos of them with little girls or little boys would be made public. That is what some people are saying Jeffrey Epstein's role is. And the more I look at the evidence, the more I am led to believe that that could be true. But YouTube don't want to hear that stuff. So I'm now wondering whether or not the executives of YouTube are pedophiles themselves. That's why they're trying to attack me for talking about Jeffrey Epstein. But that's just the reason why you're seeing this video so late, YouTube. But my Bitchute people, and look, you YouTube people, you got to go subscribe on Bitchute, because that's where the action is rapidly going towards. I'm fast losing my patience with YouTube. But anyway, Chris Sky just did a piece with Rebel, an interview with Rebel, which I would consider a hit job. I would consider it them trying to destroy his character. I've always had a very I have a bit of skepticism of Rebel. I have admired them reporting on our movement. I'm wondering whether or not they're just trying to hang on to our coattails because they know we are where it's at. We are the ones winning. We are the righteous ones. We have always stood firm. We've always said the same thing over and over again. I'm just wondering, maybe they're psyops, maybe they're a plant, just like Doug Ford was a plant, and all these other so-called these conservative politicians. They're a bunch of plants. Maybe Rebel is a plant as well. I've always been a bit skeptical of them. David Menzies was the interviewer. Now, this is a person I would consider a friend, at most an acquaintance. I did work with David for a few weeks, maybe a few months actually. Me and David and Kevin used to do a radio show together. So I do like David. But I do feel that this interview was a hit job on brother Chris Sky, trying to destroy his reputation. And I think Chris Sky is trying to warn us that there may be plants within our movement trying to poison and divide our movement from within. And I think this is something that we need to be careful about. Now let's watch this interview. Ms. Engineer, if you could share the screen, please, and thank you. We're going to analyze this video and see whether or not Brother Chris is trying to warn us that there are psyops and plants invading our movement, pretending to support us, but destroying us from the inside. Miss Engineer, please.
As I understand it, Have a nice day. Well, it's been a frantic few months for anti-lockdown crusader Chris Sky, a man who is either beloved or hated, depending on who you talk to. In any event, there is so much to unpack when it comes to Chris's recent cross-Canada speaking trip. So without further ado, let's get a much-needed update. How are you doing, Chris?
I'm fantastic, absolutely.
Well, you're looking very healthy. So glad to see you. Now, I think, like I said, there's so much to unpack here. Why don't we begin with the last time I saw you, namely last week, Dominion Day in Ottawa on the lawns of the Supreme Court. There was a kerfuffle that I was unaware of at the time because I was interviewing Maxime Bernier, the leader of the People's Party of Canada. And literally in the background, I see in the footage that we captured some scuffling happening. As I understand it, you were supposed to speak at this event.
It's funny how many people I actually know whose faces I recognize in this crowd.
But others had other ideas. What happened that day?
Well, their narrative is that I was never invited to speak at the event. I just showed up with my big ego and decided to crash their event and take the speaking spots away from the poor nurses and other people who had speaking spots. And I was this big bad villain, and they're just trying to save everybody from me and try to save the movement from me because I'm going to destroy the whole anti-lockdown movement.
Now, when you say
reality,
when you say they, just
they is Randy Hillier, the PPC, all the politicians that are secretly trying to hijack the freedom movement and turn it into a failed and irrelevant political campaign.
All right, so let's just pause here for a second. So what Chris is saying, brother Chris is saying, and I would tend to believe his credibility over any politician in Canada, especially a Canadian politician. They've all been a bunch of no good, low down disappointments. I mean, he's essentially saying that there was a rally, a speaking rally at the Supreme Court of Canada, and Chris Sky, they had originally invited him, and then they changed their mind and didn't want him to talk, and they're making it out like he would destroy the movement. Well, let me tell you guys something. You know, Chris Sky, Kellyanne Wolf, myself to a lesser extent. I mean, I first heard of Kellyanne Wolf because of these lockdown things. I mean, I will say this. From the very, very beginning of all of this thing, when almost everybody was saying that I was talking rubbish, I was saying the politicians, the establishment, they're going to use this virus, so-called virus, to take away our freedoms, just like they do with every other crisis. They're going to use this to make themselves more powerful. And no, this is not right. I don't think we should be locking down the country and forcing people to social distance and forcing people to wait in line to go into Walmart and forcing people to wear masks and et cetera, et cetera. And I even said, I'm going to, if this doesn't end within a certain period of time, I'm going to start doing civil disobedience. And that's what I've been doing, getting myself arrested. I mean, the very first rally I went to at Queen's Park, it was so small. I mean, it was just, I remember I was there. That's where I first met Chris Sky. That's where I first met him, and Kellyanne Wolf as well. That's where I first met both of them. Kevin J. Johnston went with me. I brought some friends with me. I said, you know what? The time has come to start being civilly disobedient, peaceful civil disobedience. I said that. I said it. I'm not going to deny it. And there was no Randy Hillier. There was no Maxime Bernier. There was no Derek Sloan. There was nobody. None of those people were there. Nobody. And now these people just come out of nowhere. And I'm saying they're welcome. They are welcomed. I love Randy Hillier. Honestly, I'll tell you, I know Randy. Oh, I don't know Randy Hillier's son, but I've had run-ins with him. He's kind of a bit of an asshole, but I'll tell you, Randy Hillier's son, I have a lot of respect for now because he, I believe, managed to get himself arrested fighting for the movement. So anybody who's gotten themselves arrested or gotten a fine defying these tyrannical moves, I respect them 100%. But now don't come here and say these politicians now trying to make this all about themselves and trying to grab onto our coattails to try and make themselves more powerful and to win and pretend like Chris Sky is just some ragamuffin off the street. Chris Sky, Kellyanne Wolf, hugs over masks, freedom is essential. Myself, Kevin J. Johnston, we were the ones who were doing little rallies out there in front of Queen's Park when everybody was, oh, those people. And now that they realize that we are winning hearts and minds and the people are coming on our side, now these politicians want to come in here and hang their coat on our movement, and they're welcome. But hey, just remember, this was a grassroots movement. And I don't like when politicians come into grassroots movement and try to ride the coattails and then try and take over the thing to make them. So that's the same thing that happened to the Tea Party movement. And you see what happened. The Tea Party movement turned into a genuine populist grassroots movement, turned into some Heritage Foundation, Koch brothers organization, and now the Tea Party movement's destroyed. So let's continue with Chris Sky's interview here.
They don't want me to speak because my message is united non-compliance. It is and always has been. It's the same thing Gandhi used to beat oppressive governments. You simply get the entire population together for a common good cause. And in this case, it's take off your mask, open your business, and that's it. And the pandemic's over. And you don't need a politician for that. You don't need an election for that. And that's exactly why they didn't want me speaking, because they want you to need them. If you don't need them, if you don't give them your money and your support, they don't have a job. They don't even exist. And so they're trying to hijack this freedom movement. No more lockdowns is Randy Hillier's organization. They were throwing the event in conjunction with a place called Liberty Coalition. Kellyanne Wolf contacted them on my behalf to verify that I would be able to speak there after I got notification from my lawyer that I was legally allowed to. They emailed back from the official no more lockdowns email stating, yes, Chris is allowed to speak at the Supreme Court. And I showed you that. I told you I couldn't give it to you, and I'm not going to show it to anybody until 2 Peter, but I did show you that it exists. So you can confirm that I had an email stating that I was allowed to speak at the Supreme Court. You saw it, right?
I saw something. I mean, in this day and age of shenanigans online, who knows? But Chris, the bigger
excuse
point,
me. Wait. I'm gonna dial you back there. Did I not show you an email?
Yes,
that said Chris was allowed to speak at the Supreme Court.
You did.
Okay, that's all I want to say.
But I'm just not one of those technical persons that can verify.
Well, it will be verified because I will be giving the exact document. So the reality is,
but Chris, if I may interrupt,
go ahead.
I find this a little sad, and I'll tell you why. Whether you're Mr. Hillier, Mr. Bernier, Pastor Hildebrandt, yourself, others, you all should be on the same page. You are all about opening up the economy.
No, we're not. That's the problem. We're not on the same page.
You don't think so?
No, they're on the page where they want to turn the freedom movement, which is simply people getting up off their ass, doing what they need to do to end this, like take off their mask and open their business, and they want them to sit on their couch, throw their money and their votes towards these politicians, wait for an election, and then wait, hopefully, for their guy to win, and then let that guy be the one to tell them what to do.
I think that's true. It's possible. I want you guys to reflect on what Brother Chris just said, and I think that's true. We are supposed to be on the same side. I welcome, with open arms, Randy Hillier and all these people. I welcome them. It's good that they're here. We need them. They're politicians. They're powerful people. But don't come into a house. We built this house with our bare hands. We built this house, this log cabin, and it's a beautiful cabin with air conditioning, heat, central heating, flushing toilet, just a king bed and electricity and Wi-Fi and an indoor swimming pool. We built that, and all these politicians, they can come, but don't now come take over the house that we built and then try and minimize us in our own house. I mean, if it's true that these individuals, these PPC people, and these politicians were trying to stop Chris Sky from speaking at an anti-lockdown protest, when Chris Sky from the beginning was one of the people, in fact, I would say Chris Sky was one of the people he was doing this when we were having rallies of maybe 50 people, not nobody. And now it's grown. And now you're going to try and minimize him? No. If you politicians want to come here, you got to do this our way, because we started this and you like what we've done. You like the popularity that we have, and you're not going to hijack us. You're going to do this our way. Otherwise, you're not on our side, like Brother Chris said. So, Miss Angela, let's continue here.
That's the politicians' thing. And that's why they used me. They invited me to speak. The same day I got the email that said I could speak, a flyer went out with my name on it. They said it was an unofficial flyer. And I have a timestamped email, and I have timestamps showing when the flyer was posted. And the flyer was created and posted after we got email confirmation saying I was allowed to speak. And then I promoted it on every single platform possible. So I brought a huge number of the people there. So what do we have? We have the politicians telling me I can come speak. We have me promoting the hell out of their event and me driving 5 hours to get there and show up for the event. Then as soon as I got there, I walked up to the stage and I politely asked what time I would be speaking at, because I was trying to coordinate a phone call with somebody in a different country who wanted to record the event. And one of the PPC members went up to me and said, "Oh, well, we," and I said, "Who's we?" And he declined to tell me who we was. "We had an internal risk assessment, and we decided it wasn't in our best interests to allow you to speak. So instead, we're going to give you time at the end to do a shout out, and then you can tell everybody to go to Parliament Hill and you can speak there." Parliament Hill was an everyone wearing orange and anti-candidate event. So obviously I didn't want to speak there. Obviously they knew I didn't want to speak there. So they basically invited me, used me to promote their event, and then set me up to basically be cast aside so they could take my entire support base and transfer it from the freedom movement into their own personal political campaign. And then because I'm who I am, and I fight for freedom, I fight for truth, I fight for justice, I fight for honor, and I'm not going to let anybody take advantage of me, I stood up for myself and said, "You guys are the People's Party, right? So why don't we let the people decide if I should be allowed to speak?" And I said, "Let me ask the people." They said no. So the People's Party didn't even want to allow me to ask the people for their opinion. So I said, guess what? Now you don't have a choice. I'm going to take that megaphone. I'm going to walk up on the Supreme Court steps. I'm going to ask the audience if they want me to speak. And when everybody says yes, I'm going to take over your event. And then everyone's going to know you tried to silence me. And that's exactly what I did.
Chris, hey man, I agree with that. I agree with. Can I explain to you the problem with politicians in this country? And I say this, well, Canada, because I'm in the U.S. right now. So I should say Canada. I still feel like I'm in Canada right now. Well, you know, the problem is with politicians in Canada. And I say this, I don't see this too much in other politicians in other countries. The politicians in Canada are so afraid of strong voices. So I bet you these politicians who have now just squirmed their way into our movement, Maxine Bernier, Randy Hillier, all these people, they probably have advisors telling them, "Oh, you better be careful of that boy Chris guy. He is, oh, be careful of that boy, be careful. He is a loudmouth, he is dangerous. He gonna cost you votes." Actually, Chris Guy would probably gain them votes. Actually, what they're doing to Chris Guy is probably going to going to lose them votes. Chris Guy is probably going to gain them votes, but they don't know that because these guys don't know anything about real life. They don't. I bet you they don't even know how to tie their own shoes. But there's some advisors tell them, "Hey, listen, you make that boy Chris Guy speak, my gosh, he will destroy you. You will lose. He is and then they're going to bring out that this is the thing, especially conservative politicians in Canada. They bring out the anti-Semitism card. Oh, he's an anti-Semite. He may have said some things about Zionism, and they're going to talk about that in this interview. Be careful. Don't let him speak. He's dangerous, even though Chris Guy is the one that I would say he's one of the founding fathers of this damn movement. One of the founding fathers of this. As I said, the first time I ever met Chris Guy was at a rally in front of Queen's Park. It was created by Hugs Over Masks, and Chris Guy and Kellyanne Wolf and maybe 50 other people were there. That was when that was like what, July, June, around this time, actually, around this time. And I made a speech and I said, if August comes and things aren't completely back to normal, I will never support Doug Ford again. I made that speech. That was one of the first speeches I made, and there was no Randy Hillier out there. So now, Randy, you can't come here now and have your advisors tell you, "Oh, be careful of Chris." Be careful of Kelly. Be careful of that Arana Nation boy. Be careful of these people. These people, let's hold on to their movement and ride their movement, but we'll avoid the people who made the movement. No, Stephen Harper tried to do that with Preston Manning. You ain't doing that to us, Randy Hillier, Maxime Bernier. Yeah, no. We can, listen, you see what we've been doing to Doug Ford. Doug Ford's approval numbers in the toilet now. We'll do the same thing to you. So don't mess with us. Maxime, I still am endorsing PBC for right now, but if I hear more of these things, I was buffaloed by Doug Ford. Now I'm more careful when it comes to these politicians. I don't give second chances. So don't let me keep hearing these things. Let's continue with Brother Chris.
You said it yourself, the E word, ego, as a neutral observer. That's kind of the vibe.
I don't think Rebel is a neutral observer, I think Rebel is a plant. But let's continue.
If I'm getting, I think we are witnessing in the anti-lockdown movement perhaps a clash of egos. Toys ever thus, when you have so many people vying to be the leader, the spokesman, what have you. This is what happens with that. But I mean, is that really what we're seeing? That
what we're seeing,
the anti-lockdown movement.
What we're seeing now is that I'm starting to believe that you might be part of this control opposition because you're trying to push their narrative and you're trying to pretend like the truth doesn't matter. It has nothing to do with ego.
No,
if I invited,
no, it doesn't have anything to do with ego. If Chris Sky is invited to speak somewhere, and then some little boy who's some volunteer for the PPC, some little boy in short pants, comes to Chris Sky and says, "Oh, by the way, we can't let you speak here now. We think you're a bit too radical, but you can speak at some, substitute event, some token event, but we're trying to keep you around." You'd be pretty pissed too. So don't talk about ego. Don't talk about ego. Chris Sky was taken for a ride by those PVC people, and I think we should be together. But this isn't Chris Sky's fault. This is the people, the politicians who are trying to take over our movement. It's their fault.
No, if I invited you to speak somewhere,
was Randy Hillier ever arrested? I want to know. I know Maxime Bernier was, and I salute him for that. I want to know if Maxime Bernier, Randy Hillier was arrested. These politicians who are trying to come to our movement, hey, if you haven't been arrested or gotten a fine, don't even bother getting too comfortable, because this is a movement where people have to be uncomfortable. If you haven't been arrested, if you haven't been given a fine, if you haven't done anything to push back against this tyranny, hey, don't pretend like you are some kind of authority.
if I invited you to speak somewhere, that's an allegation because I'm saying what you just said.
Okay.
If I invited you to speak somewhere, I have documented evidence, and then you got there and I tried to tell you you weren't going to speak, and you stood up for yourself because that's what's right and that's what's true. Am I going to say that that's your ego talking, or I'm going to say you're just somebody who's standing up for what's right?
Well, first of all, it was just my observation, and
that's an observation. That's an observation people can make without having the facts. I just gave you the facts. I even showed you the evidence, and you still brought up the exact same narrative that every single opposition person has been saying, trying to push the ego thing, and you just pushed it after we got documented evidence, and I just laid out exactly what happened. So I don't know now.
Well, let's move on from July 1st. Of course, front page news back in May. There's the Chris Sky story. Anti-masker Chris Sky allegedly threatened to kill Ontario leader than all other premiers. Chris, that was a bombshell story. The man making the allegations, Rob Carbone,
and that's the only evidence they have, by the way, allegations from somebody. So that's the equivalent of me calling the police right now and saying, Dave Menzies wants to kill Doug Ford.
Well, first of all, let me ask you point blank. Did you ever say that? Did you ever say that you wanted to kill any politician?
No.
Okay. So now the other part of this is, Rob Carbone, who he and you were buddy for so
I
many
can
months.
tell you exactly what happened with Rob Carbone in about 5 seconds and clear everything up. Rob Carbone presented himself as Canada's Donald Trump. He presented himself as someone that had international banking ties. He had me put in contact with banking people around the world. He presented me with these bank bonds that on face value, when checked out, appeared to be real, even when verified by multiple agencies that verify these kind of things. However, when it came down to the actual paperwork for these things, nobody could verify the paperwork, so they were obviously fraudulent in some way because they could not be used. That was just part of the problem. Rob lied about virtually everything. He tried to hire a campaign team to register the Republican Party, and after about 5 weeks of working with these people, they came to me and they confessed none of them had been paid $1. Then his website said he hadn't been paid. Then his merch guy told me he hadn't been paid. Then I saw the notification that he hadn't even paid his friggin' rent. This is a supposed billionaire that's going to run the country and save the country, and he scammed multiple people for money. And then when I found out that he committed fraud, and I had actual evidence of a retiree wire transferring $15,000 to Rob Carbone from his thing to Rob's thing, and all the correspondence of Rob coercing this man to do so for an investment that doesn't even exist, I came to Rob and said, Rob, not only did you not pay anybody that you were supposed to pay, now I find out you can't pay your rent and you're taking people's money for investments that don't exist. That's called fraud. So I'm not going to get in trouble for you. I'm going to have to report this. And then within 2 days, Rob called the police and said, oh my God, Chris is threatening to kill me. Chris is threatening to kill Doug Ford and everybody else. Come get him quick.
And his allegations in the story, of course, is that you wanted money from him.
Oh, yeah.
Turned off the taps and
turned off the taps. Yeah, he can't even pay his rent. He turned off the taps. Good luck, buddy.
Yeah, we have to be very, very careful of. I've come to the conclusion we have to be very careful of plants in this movement. I believe we have to be alert. We have to be on guard. I believe there are people out there, especially politicians. Anytime a politician comes into a grassroots organization, welcome them, but scrutinize them as well. Investigate. What is their motive? Why are you here? Do you care? Are you genuinely interested in freedom, or is there an ulterior motive? And are you going to come here and try and scatter the group and separate the group and ultimately destroy the group because you're trying to use the popularity of the movement to gain your own political ambitions? People have to be careful of that. That's what I have to say on this issue. I don't know Rob Carbone. I've seen his name floated around about the place. So I don't really have a dog in that fight. But as I said, because I mean, Chris Sky and what I'm seeing in this interview, based on what I've seen and some of the things that have happened to me, personal experience, I tend to believe Chris Sky's credibility over people like Rob Carbone and especially Rebel News. So with that being said, I don't know Rob Carbone. I don't know him. I could be completely unfair. I don't have a dog in the fight. I'm just saying from what I'm seeing and from what I've been through myself with politicians and other people, I tend to believe Chris Sky's credibility over others.
I'm a billionaire, but I'm right.
And if Rob Carbone is watching this video and he wants to come and dispute this, he's more than welcome to come on. Now, I know he's not going to do it, but I'm just letting the invite. Anybody's welcomed on Arana Nation. I'm just going to let you know right now. If there's something that I've said that you want to correct and you're a politician, come on over here. But if you don't come over and you've watched what I have to say and you want to run from me, then that makes your credibility even worse with me. So let's continue.
Renting a condo. Okay, anyway, guys.
But who exactly is Rob Carbone then, Chris? I mean, there are
he's
allegations.
He's a con, a liar, and a fraud. And
okay.
I'm pretty sure and I would say he's an informant with the police. And I'll say that because of the way I was arrested. Because the way I was arrested, they lie in the media and say they came to my house and that I jumped in a car and ran away from them and tried to run police officers over. That's the allegations that they put in all these newspapers that I saw. Reality check. Reality was I was driving to the gym. I was on Keel Street heading westbound from King Road on a normal public road, driving normally, when a completely innocuous gray sedan, completely unmarked, completely unidentified, drove by me on the left-hand side. Nobody identified themselves. There was no markings on the vehicle or the occupants in the car. And when they passed me, they got in front of me and they slammed on their brakes. And as soon as they slammed on their brakes, I had to actually stop in the middle of the road on Keel Street, heading westbound. And as soon as I stopped in the middle of the road, two men, not wearing uniforms, in black masks covering their face, with guns drawn in their hands, start running at my car. Like it's a Colombian drug cartel kidnapping. And I'm somebody that gets death threats virtually every single day. So what would you or anybody with a brain in this situation do? And what they acknowledge I did, I put my truck in reverse, created a safe amount of distance, put it in drive, and drove around the two unidentified assailants to get away. That's what I did. All of a sudden, that got turned into I tried to run over a police officer or assault with a deadly weapon on a police officer. Everything here is politically motivated. It was timed to coincide with I was supposed to leave the next day for a tour and to launch my book in Vancouver. And coincidentally, I get arrested the very night before, and they put all these conditions on me to try to prevent me. I can't drive. I can't fly. I had to be with my bail surety. They got a warrant to go to my house and take all my legally owned firearms, all based on the hearsay of somebody making a phone call to the police and saying I said something.
Chris, switching gears again, moving on to the weird world of social media. And I have to bring this up because it's a thing. We even get questions. Why do you give Chris Guy the time of day, given that he is a Holocaust denier? And
I am not a Holocaust denier. I have been to the concentration camps. How many of you so-called Holocaust?
This is the reason why I've always been very skeptical of Rebel, because I know they're a very, very hardcore Zionist organization. And I do believe that they are an establishment conservative organization. And, people shouldn't just assume that conservative means, they stand for what we stand for, freedom and the populace and the revolution. No, in fact, in some cases, conservatives are even worse. I'm very skeptical of Rebel. And now I feel that Rebel, because they, I believe, would tend to side themselves with the politicians of Randy Hillier and Maxime Bernier and other conservative politicians, and they would most likely be on the establishment side over someone like Chris Scott. They're now going to use the whole Jew stuff and the whole Zionist stuff to try and destroy Chris's credibility, like what almost all conservative politicians do. It's been done to me, and now it's being done to Chris. And that's why I would tend to support Chris's credibility over Rebels. It's the same tactic that has been done to me. It's still being done to me. These ultra Zionistic individuals trying to destroy our reputation. So let's continue.
Holocaust proponents have actually gone to Germany, spent hours on a train, hours more on a bus, and then hours more exploring Sachsenhausen concentration camp. I saw where they kept the Jewish people. I saw where they kept the non-Jewish people. The only thing I've said about the Holocaust is when they tell you 6 million people died, that's a biblical reference, and it's about fulfilling a prophecy for the Jews to come home to their homeland. And they've used that reference multiple times in media well before World War II, going back all the way to the early 1900s. So that is not Holocaust denial. And the only other thing I said about World War II that people try to criticize is, yes, we know Jewish people were persecuted. We know they were killed, and it's horrible. But so were 30 million other people during World War II.
Exactly.
So we need to remember everybody.
Exactly.
And when I said...
Exactly. I think what is happening here is that they have a problem with Chris saying that 6 million Jews weren't killed. Well, I don't know. They say 6 million. Okay, fine. Maybe it's 6 million. But I don't think it's fair and right to destroy people who try to ask questions about incidences. And as far as I'm hearing right now, it doesn't sound like Chris is denying that the Holocaust happened. What he is simply saying is that the numbers may be skewed. I don't know whether they are or not, but that's what he's saying. And I've noticed that when it comes to Jews, I mean, you never see this with black folk. You never see this with Arabs. You can talk trash about anybody under them, but the moment you even look, the moment you even sniff badly about Jew, you can get yourself destroyed. And I think that's wrong. I think that's undemocratic. I think it's evil. I think people who engage in that should burn in hell. Life is about always asking questions and always knowing the facts. I don't know. I believe 6 million died until I hear something else. And I believe I have the right to hear what other people have to say on issues. And I don't hear anything from Chris so far stating that, oh, the Jews weren't murdered, the Nazis were great people. I don't hear anything, but the rebel is now trying to play that slimy, sleazy game to try and destroy Chris, because they know that's one weapon they can always use to destroy people. And I hope that Chris continues to fight back like I fight back against these ultra Zionist individuals who like to use that weapon to destroy people that they don't like.
We need to remember everybody. Like, oh my God, you're a Holocaust denier. It's like when someone says all lives matter, and then someone screams, oh, that means you mean black lives don't matter. No, that's not what it means at all. So anyway, that's complete bull.
Well, Chris, because the internet is forever, I mean, some of those posts from years ago have been...
I mean, why are we even talking about these posts now? Why are we talking about these posts now? I mean, Chris Sky is fighting to open up our country, to fight tyranny, to destroy the skunk, the subhuman trash, which is running Canada, the New World Order, Justin Tackett, Tarface, long-haired Swiftfoot Matt Daddy Trudeau, Doug, the domesticated house slave Ford who should have died instead of Rob, Jason, Chris Sky is fighting for our country, and Rebel wants to bring him on to talk about this crap, which is really a nothing burger as far as I'm concerned. He's asking questions, or he has suggested that this 6 million, I mean, I don't know, should he talk about it? I would probably say no, because the moment you talk anything about Jews, you could get yourself killed. I mean, you can say anything about Muslims, you can say anything about black folk, you can call black folk any name in the book, and nothing will happen. The moment you talk about Jews, I think that's wrong. We can't have one group of people just because they have more influence, which is good for them, And I say, you know, instead of black folk always getting mad and angry about racism, they should follow what the Jews do and make themselves a powerful group so that people don't dare talk about them. But I think this is wrong. I don't even know why they're talking about this. I think this is done deliberately to try and smear Chris Scott. And thankfully, the Rebel audience is not falling for it, because it looks like most people who watch Rebel dislike this video right now. I'm looking at all the comments here stating, you know, oh, I knew Rebel News was trouble. You know, it doesn't look, saying people are hated is part of the reason why I don't watch the show often. He wasn't denying the Holocaust. You know, most of these rebel boys are checking Rebel, and I say good, that their little tactic isn't working this time. I said good, people are waking up. Shame on Rebel.
He published, here's one quote.
And I'm disappointed in David. I worked for him for a number of years. I consider him a friend. I'm disappointed that he would engage in this.
6 million Jews were murdered is the biggest lie created in the history of fake Jew history, end quote.
That is,
why would you say that?
Because 6 million people did not die in the Holocaust. If 6 million,
how many did that?
We have no idea of knowing.
Really?
But for them to claim an exact number when it's completely impossible of knowing, it's completely impossible of knowing. And there's lots of different references, like the World Almanac, that show the population before and after. When Israel was created between 1946 and 1948, with all the stuff that was going on, millions of Jewish people habitated to there. So 6 million people didn't just die, they relocated. So when they say 6 million people, like I said, it's making reference to their biblical prophecy that says once 6 million of us perish, we will get our homeland back. So that's why they chose the number of 6 million, because it's written in their book. There is no way of knowing how many people died in World War II. For someone to go and say 32 million people died in World War II, that's complete hogwash. So for someone to be able to go and say, especially in concentration camps, that this many people died, a specific number, that's complete hogwash. There's no way of knowing how many people died.
Well,
do we know they were persecuted?
I would dispute
1,000,000%. That's indisputable. Do we know they killed a very large number of people, probably in the millions? Yes. Do we know that they killed 6 million on the dot, or 6 million that number? No, and nobody can prove that, and that's what I am saying.
Well, Chris, have you ever reached out to Yad Vashem, the Holocaust Remembrance Center in Jerusalem, who has done incredible decades worth of research? I mean, I've been there several times. I remember a curator once saying when they had the original number, it was 18 million, and then they wanted to be bulletproof. So they went through the records over and over, and sometimes people were double, triple counted, and they whittled it down to 6 million. Now, if you had an agenda to make the Holocaust look worse, you would have gone with the 18 million.
Okay, but
so have you ever reached out to the experts in the field?
Oh, okay. So the experts first said there were 18 million, and then the experts then said there were 6 million. So were they right when they said 18
But they
million?
wanted to be bulletproof.
Oh, so they wanted to. So now, because they said they're really, really sure, that means they're 100%. The first it was 18 million. That's triple the number. Now they're really sure that it was 6 million. Does that mean they're 100% sure?
No, but I explained the reason. Some people were counted 3 or 4 times.
That's wonderful. So does that mean that they missed any more that could have been double counted, or some people that were counted that weren't really dead? Does that mean that the 6 million number that they came up with is 100%? Can you tell me, can we contact them right now and they're going to say the 6 million number is 100%, or will they say it's an estimation? Will they say it's our best estimate?
Well, Chris, I
asked you a question. Will they say it's 100%, or will they say it's an estimation? When their previous estimation was 18 million.
They believe this is the most accurate figure.
Okay, they believe. So it's not a figure.
Chris,
it's something that they're literally making up, like I said, and they're saying this is our best guess.
But Chris,
a guess is still a guess. A guess is still something you made up. So when you quote me and say you're denying the experts themselves are telling you this is a number that we're making up based on the information we have available. Based on the information we had available, we thought it was 18 million. Now we're guessing it's 6 million. So that's all I'm saying.
Guessing. It's doing decades and decades worth of research.
That's wonderful.
You've gone to some
you can say whatever you want. Regardless, you admitted that it's their best guess.
Well, I didn't say guess.
Their best belief. Sorry, a belief is still a guess.
Well, I think based on decades worth of scholarly
and research. Now I'm 100% sure that you guys have changed your stripes, because this started about an interview about anti-lockdown, and it turned into let's assassinate the character of Chris Sky and try to make the Jewish community not like him. When I have very high support from the Jewish community, because some of my best friends are Jewish. No, I know exactly what's going on now, David, and now I know why I didn't get contact by Rebel News for a couple months, and now I also know why you guys got demonetized off of YouTube and you lost all your income, yet somehow you started hiring all these new people and somehow your station keeps growing. And now when I go on your feeds on Twitter and stuff, it reads more like a mainstream media platform instead of the Rebel News of old. Well, you guys are starting to disappoint me, David.
No, Chris, listen,
I hope you don't edit this out to make it look, to try to make me
Chris,
look bad.
this actually, this attack on me and my organization.
It's not an attack, it's just an observation.
If I may speak, we have always given you a platform.
You see, now David's getting a bit hot under the collar. I can see it in his face, because he thought that he was going to bring Chris Sky on here and he was going to make a fool out of him. But Chris Sky ended up turning the tables on David Menzies on his own show.
When we see allegations made, I'm giving you, in all fairness, time to respond to those.
And I did. And you keep trying to push the narrative that I'm a denier and trying to push everything. You even tried to push the narrative that it didn't matter that they lied about Ottawa. You tried to pretend like I didn't show you an email. You said, oh, it could have been anything. You're literally feeding every narrative that they're using to attack me right now, and you're playing into it. So, David, I think I'm going to cut this interview at this, and I don't think I'm going to be talking to Rebel News anymore.
Really? Seriously?
Yeah.
Yeah,
okay, well,
you can't bring someone on here and do them like
that. We're trying to give Chris an opportunity to refute some of these allegations, some of these social media postings that have been made by him. And I guess he didn't want to pursue that. I had many more questions and many more directions to go in this. I'm sorry that Chris has taken such a stance as this, but maybe with the passage of time, he will come back. We'll see. Yeah, you guys just got motto, and now you guys have to do certain things, like trying to make you listen. It's okay though. Have a nice day. Sorry, you guys probably won't be seeing me anymore because it's not worth it. I thought it was important to address this because we receive feedback from viewers saying, how do you give a Holocaust denier a platform? And I just wanted to find out.
Who are these people? Who are these scoundrels, these rats who are talking about Holocaust denial? I didn't hear anything about Holocaust denial from Chris Guy. It's just a bunch of rats out there who are probably the same people who have come and tried to give me problems, now trying to destroy Chris. That's why I'm saying you have to be careful of posers in our organization. And based on my experience, those who are overly Zionistic tend to not really be the best individuals in our organization. They're usually always the ones who make the most trouble. They're usually the ones who are the biggest traitors. They're the ones who are the rats in the organization. They are the snitches in the organization. It's just my experience. I'm not saying all, but that's just based on experience. That's why people who have that overly Zionistic tone to them, where it's like they care more. It's like I'm always wary. I will welcome them. I will befriend them, but I'm always looking at them through the corner of my eye because that has been the experience. And especially what's happened to me, and I see the same thing happening with Chris. You bring him on to talk about the freedom movement, and then you want to drag out this stuff about Holocaust denial when he hasn't denied the Holocaust. Sick and disgusting. But I'm glad people are waking up.
What his side of the story was, but I guess I'm off Chris Guy's Christmas card list. It's too bad because I had a lot more questions to ask him. And the thing is, we're not on anyone's team as a journalistic organization. We're kind of like the umpire folks behind home plate. We're calling balls and strikes. And listen, just like a ref calling offside, when you see something that is offside, you got to raise it, especially since it has been raised in popular media. And he could have had I was giving you an opportunity to refute that or maybe to have a different opinion on this. But Chris chose to leave. So there you have it. Unfortunate.
Especially in concentration camps that this many people.
Well, Nazis were pretty methodical. Oh yeah, I was trying to say that Nazis were the great record keepers.
I felt that because we are generally sympathetic to him, we would be a good forum for him to say, oh, that thing I wrote years ago, well, I was just a hothead or I was stupid. But I just watched the tape of you having an argue with him, and he sort of doubled down and then he stormed out. What do you make of that whole thing?
Yeah, like you, Ezra, I like Chris. He's larger than life. He's almost a cartoon figure. I say that in a good way. He's great on camera. And what the situation we're in is we've had emails. I've had emails personally sent to me saying, how can you give a Holocaust denier a platform? How can you not even?
Yeah, they're trying to brazen it out. I can't watch any more of this. If y'all want to watch the rest of that, you want to watch their little phony explanation, you can do so on Rebel's YouTube channel. But I can't watch any more of this garbage. I think he did the right thing. You know, don't even give these people a time of day. Just disown them. Just disown them. Don't tell them anything. Don't welcome them at any of your events. Don't speak to them. Don't have nothing to do with them. They are a snake in the grass, rebel. And I've always known they were trouble. I've always known that they were trouble. I appreciate the fact that they cover us and all this stuff, but I wonder if they're genuinely doing it or if they're just trying to hold on to our coattails and trying to use people to get more subscribers and donations and all this stuff by covering our movement. They say they're the umpire and all this stuff. Well, you know, just the other day, You were full on lock, stock, and barrel with us, going to our events, complaining about people being arrested. So when you portray yourself as being on our side, don't now turn around and say, oh, we're just neutral. You can't do that. Anyway, Chris Guy's a patriot. He did the right thing. Beware of snakes in the grass. Beware of psyops in the movement. We're winning. And we are winning, and the sharks smell blood, and they are attracted to our winning streak, and we are going to win with or without them, and they better fall in line with us. They're welcome to be in our movement, but they should do this on our terms. And if they can't do that, then they can dismiss themselves. Well, we're going to win with or without them. And that's just all it is to it. This is your